Here we are, we're back for another go with the Gobsmasha. Last time, got the hull all done. We need a place for the gun to sit, and preferably in a way that it looks interesting. I could just take a flat piece of plastic here, but that's really kind of dull. So, an afternoon of tinkering. This is going to sit in here. That. So what that gives us is if people try to look down the throat of our model, they won't see a whole lot of empty space on the inside. They're still going to see a bit. I'm going to have a hard time filling in all the little gaps and stuff. But this is going to help us make the front of the model look a bit more interesting and not just have a hole that goes straight through. Now this is the biggest chunk of tube I have. This is the second biggest chunk of tube I have. So this little carriage piece is going to be meant to take a small chunk of this, thread it into a piece of that, and then once this is dealt with and glued in, our gun, when we finally get built, will simply slot in, and we won't have to worry about keeping it affixed to the model. If you just try to stick something on like that, there's not a lot of contact points there. And this is a piece that's going to stick out, so it's going to get bumped and it's going to get smacked. So giving it as much possible contact as we can that way. This guy's glued in multiple dimensions. Now, did I have to detail the piss out of this? No, I didn't. However, I don't want someone to pick this up, take a look at it, and go, "Oh, you didn't do anything to the inside of the model." And even if they don't, I will know that I did nothing to the inside of the model. That's kind of cheating myself. First, the other problem is that this thing here, because it's going to sit in there, there's no way we're going to be able to prime all of that and get any amount of paint on it. So this thing is going to have to get primed. A quick metallic dry brush, maybe a bit of rust. Then it's got to get glued in. And when I go to paint the rest of this thing, this will have to get masked off so I don't spray bomb all my work, right? But what it does is it adds a bit more interest to the front of the model, and on a personal note, I'll know I didn't cheap out too badly. The other bit, trying to figure out how the engine's going to work. Now we've only got, there's less than a 1/4 inch of space here, because our engine mounts here, and it mounts quite nicely. Right? There's not a lot of gap, very, very tiny bit of gap here. This gap should actually be a gap, whereas we've got hinges. Right? This is a mounting that's supposed to swing up, so you would expect a bit of a gap there, so we can get away with that. The engine is going to have to get built separately. I kind of know what I'm going to do with it. I'm only a week into the build. But when it comes time to paint, this is going to go on top. We'll spray bomb it with the rest of the model and do some of the other effects. Then, the engine will get put in. This will get glued back down. What little of the engine you see will stick out of here, but the rest of the model, like, will all get, the cowling and the hull will all get painted at the same time. That way there shouldn't be any drastic differences in texture or weathering. The wheels, there's two things I hate: circles and rivets. Vehicle's got both of them. Detail the outside and a bit on the inside, so it's not boring, like you'll see it kind of from that side. I've got to figure out kind of how to make them about 1 inch thick with the tiniest bit of overlap over top of here. I'm not quite sure what material I'm going to use. I've got this stuff, which is, I guess, clapboard siding. And then I've got some stuff with squares on it. My options are like half, all the way over here. For some reason I didn't think of this beforehand. Our options are 1/4-inch squares, and then I have like 1/2-inch squares. 1/2-inch squares will make kind of big, chunky plates. 1/2-inch squares will give us a more rounded, right? Because they're so small, they give us a more rounded thing like that, but then we still have to deal with the fact that we have a whole bunch of little squares in there. Detailing wheels has never been my strong point. Really hasn't. And I realize that I have to address some of my not strong points if I want to make a good looking model, right? Let's see how well this goes. Got a bit of color on there. That's whatever bronze, Wed Belcher, and then some Seraphim Sepia to try to get the rust effects. I don't have a Mithril Silver anymore because they just don't make one. Popped down to the local store. Tried out Tamiya's something acrylic silver or something. It's really light. This was meant for a titanium silver. This was made for an airbrush, wasn't it? It's probably why I'm not getting any coverage with it. I really, really miss Mithril Silver. It was nice for just picking out highlights. But if we slot this thing in here, there. So there's stuff in there. You can see it. And you can't see into the guts of the model. There's a little bit of bright in there. Like, you've got to look really hard to find it. But that's only because there's no paint on this model yet. So all that's blocking the light is the white plastic, which doesn't really block a lot of light. This guard, I want to paint it an imperial color. And then look, I got a quick paint over in a couple spots. Obviously this diamond plate will have to be a different bit. Like, it was kind of painted and then all the paint kind of chipped off. And then I got a little overboard detailing the engine. I like guitar strings, you need stuff with them. And then this guy just pops through the hood like that. Right? There. Big old engine in the back of that helps with the profile a bit. Still being lazy on the wheels because these are the last. I really don't want to do these. I know I have to, just don't want to. I already said I hate circles and I hate rivets. So of course that means I need to build a model with giant circles and rivets on it. I did manage to put these together. There's a 4 short pieces of I-beam, which is just what I had over here that I had a lot of. This is the 1/2-inch kind of divided stuff because I could gently fold it around and then secure it while it held still. And then it came in afterwards with a bunch of whatever side of rod this is, 0.035 inches rod. It's very small through all the joints, so it shouldn't just haul off and poof the first time it gets bumped. What I will have to do is there are a gazillion little gaps, and you can see them, because you can't, I'm putting flat spots, flat things around a circle. Obviously we're going to have roughs. That's going to be a whole lot of green stuff. I did catch a video by a guy where he dissolves sprue in acetone and then uses that for various purposes. And I've got to say, I'm tempted. Like, it doesn't have to, he says it only takes like an hour or so to cure or whatever. And I don't have to mix it, meaning I'd be able to just chew it up and then just small amounts of it gently pushed into there. Because as it stands, you can't quite see light through it, but it doesn't look as nice as I would like. Got a couple of the axles made. These need details of some kind. I'm not sure what. They need something. It's a boring flat spot. I don't want to... This would not look good through there, because it just... What purpose would it serve? I don't have enough flat stock of any kind to really make any kind of tread out of it. I definitely do not have enough corner stock. I have this. This is what I have for corner stock. Someday I need to visit a place with that an evergreen plastics stand. These could go like that, and I could put a flat piece here or something like that. But I've got time. These still have to like dry, like the glue has to take hold completely before I even think about running the axles through the body. So while that was going on, gave the whole thing a shot of primer. And now it looks like an actual model. I have a, literally a $6 bottle of gray acrylic primer. It's yellow no-name stuff that I bought forever ago and miraculously still works. And it did a lot to unify the model. Like, there's still a couple bad spots on it. What's gonna really, really bug a bunch of you is this is not going to be red. This is going to be this color. This. So when I got back into, yeah, you stay there, back into 40K in 06, after taking like, I don't know, 6 or 7 years off, because I had no one to play against. I had a bunch of second edition stuff, no one to play against. I decided to build an army, and at the time the codex that came out while I was getting back in, they had removed all the clans. I want to say it's like 6th edition or something like that. There were no clans. It didn't matter if your army was Goth or Snakebite or Bad Moons, whatever. It just, you picked a bunch of stuff. And one of the things it had going for it in, I forget which book it was A Cult of Speed, which I was a big fan of in 2nd. So I decided to build a Cult of Speed army based on industrial equipment. And I didn't think this looked too bad many, many, many years ago. I still think the main body looks great. I cringe at how bad my tracks are. But I do think that the main body, it's kind of based on the Dawn of War track. Right? You know, there's a pilot and there's a guy driving on the back. And it's definitely you can tell it's a fast vehicle. It's got one guy on the gun, so it's not a transport. And while looking beefy, it still looks flimsy enough to be a little bitty vehicle. I have to get this color onto here. But it can't do what I did when I did this one, because this is actual rust paint with chestnut ink smeared on it for a bit of that rust look. I thought it looked great. In hindsight, I wish I'd made better choices. The problem is that once you put on rust paint, you can't put acrylic paint on it anymore, because rust paint's more of it's an alkyd paint, I think, and it just doesn't take acrylic paint anymore. So then, yeah, I could, give it a shot of Purity Seal. Which one's the matte finish? Whatever. I could give it a shot of that and then keep painting, but that's kind of a pain in the butt. So I have to figure out how to get a crusty yellow onto this model. And I obviously wasn't going to do it by priming it black. You prime something black and you try to put a light color on it. That's a recipe for pain every time. This guy, now that I've got him gray, I'm going to have to experiment with a few yellow spray paints, because I am not going to try to brush yellow onto a model. That is never a good idea. It has never turned out well for me. If it's turned out well for you, that's great. It's never done for me. And with shoddy yellow in the appropriate places, this is still going to be some form of gray with yellow on it. It looks like it's being chipped and chipped and smashed off. Our engine is one nice black piece. It still needs a little primer in a few spots, but that's okay, because then we can paint it. Drop that on. You can't see it. There's a little bit of black tape here, so I have a place to glue things back down on. But it looks a lot more like a model now, doesn't it? It's not actual GW gray, but it looks like a model. So once I figure out how to make that, it's going to look a lot better. I'm thinking maybe a shot of, I go with a really, really light, a medium brown, a lightish brown. And then salt weather it, or I could just ploff some kind of yellow, like a caterpillar yellow, and then pick at it with a sponge, and then put chips and dings on it or something. But either way, it certainly looks a lot more like a model now. And I realize I keep running off the top of the screen because I forgot where the middle of my screen is. It definitely looks a lot better now. So we're gonna end this one here. I'm gonna get these things detailed up a little bit better, and then get them ready to stick on the model. Obviously, we can't put them on yet. To put them on now, we're not going to be able to paint it, right? We're not going to be able to. We won't get anywhere. But we're a lot further ahead than where I was earlier this week. So, stay tuned. I like the way this is looking good, and I hope you do too. And I'll see you in the future.